welcome to Relish Books. Today I'm sharing my latest library Bookstack. So I've found that some of my complaints that I've been making lately about our local library have not been correct. So I was complaining about how they didn't have Shakespeare. Well, I found Shakespeare there the other day at last, just from searching like in the poetry section and the plays section. So what I'm learning is not so much a library deficiency in what they have as in their search engine system, because anything that I put in all kinds of different collections of Shakespeare's individual plays in my searches for it, and it never brought up anything. It was like no results found for every single thing of Shakespeare that I tried to find, but in just walking through the shelves, I discovered a complete collection of Shakespeare as well as a bunch of the individual plays. So I think that their system is just not very intuitive. But anyway, I was very happy to discover those. I kind of found them by accident while I was looking for something else. So this is my stack. It is poetry and plays, almost entirely. Actually, they're all poetry and plays. This fall and winter, I'm really going to focus on furthering my reading and education, just of the foundations of literature, English literature in particular, but just exploring more of kind of the cornerstones of literature. I've been looking at different book lists, and I've read a lot of classics, but kind of just as they came along. Not, well, some of them have been intentional, but not like looking at a list of like, okay, these are like the big classics of the world and origins of languages and stuff like that, as intentionally. But anyway, starting off, I found a bunch of Wendell Berry, which I was very excited about just because he is one of my all-time favorite poets, probably my second favorite poet after Mary Oliver. It's kind of hard, but I love how different they are, and yet the feeling that their poetry gives me is similar. So I have Sabbaths, which this is a side note for anybody who is interested in these kinds of things. It's so interesting to me that he is writing a poetry collection called Sabbaths. He references a lot of biblical stuff, biblical themes, and yet he, like so many people in America from I don't know where exactly this tradition came from. I feel like someone explained it to me once, the origin of this mistaken thinking, but if you do even just a little bit of research, of course, many people know this, the Sabbath is Saturday, not Sunday, but he's writing about Sabbaths in place of the word for Sundays, which it could seem like a minor thing, but if you encounter it a lot, it's annoying. People who mistake these terms. Sabbath, biblically speaking, is speaking of Saturday, but he is using it to speak of Sunday. That point aside, they are beautiful poems. I'm about halfway through and really, really enjoying it. So I have that one. Then I have Given. I was so tempted to just greedily take all the Wendell Berry that they had, but I had to force myself to just get 3 or 4 and then be like, well, next time I'll get more. So I have Given and Entreaties. So very excited about these. And then I have a collection of Henrik Ibsen's plays. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name quite correctly. A Doll's House has been on my list for a long time, and Peer Gynt, however you say that. Anyway, so excited to read some of those. Now this is actually what I went to the library for. This thing is a single poem. It's a poem that tells a story. It is a monument in the origins of English literature, English literature's foundations, I guess. I found this on some lists. I believe I've heard of it before, but it is The Faerie Queene by Edmund Spenser. I found it referred to as a poem, and I wasn't expecting a poem like the length of a Wendell Berry or a Mary Oliver. I was expecting like a long poem, but I was not expecting this. When I found it on the shelf too, I was like, oh, it must be the Fairy Queen and other poems. But no, this is the Fairy Queen. And the writing, I mean, it's poetry form, so like it doesn't take up a full page, but it's small writing. The pages are thin, and it's like over 1,000 pages long. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get through this in the time that I have it out from the library, but I'm just going to work on it a few pages a day. It's also written in very old English. Not like what we think of as the language of Old English, but it has a lot of similarities to that. Very old, like he uses Y or U's in the place of V's and vice versa, a lot of other things like that. Reading it, I'm able to understand it for the most part. If I go slowly and piece it together, I can understand it, and it is enjoyable. It's not something where you're just like, I have no idea what's even going on. You can follow the story, but it is kind of difficult. At first, I'm sure it'll get easier as I get more used to the writing, but definitely feels like a bit of a translation as you're going along, which I'm sure will not help me to get through it quickly, but I'm just going to kind of work on it, see where I get with it. Then I have been meaning for a long time to read the poems of Rilke. And so I got this, the Book of Images. They had quite a bunch of his stuff. Kind of just chose this haphazardly because I didn't know where to start. I have read so many quotes and references to him, about him, read bits and pieces of his work here and there, so I'm really excited to actually read some of his poetry. And this is fun because most of their books that the library had by his actually are bilingual translations. So on one side they have the original language, and then on the other side of the page they have the English. So that's kind of fun, even though I cannot read the original language. I think it's German. And Shakespeare. This thing doesn't actually look super thick for being the complete works, but it is very, very heavy. It's like those tiny thin pages. So I have this plan, and very tiny print. So my idea for this, I've read probably about half of the well-known Shakespeare plays. I've read a bunch of them, but the ones that like are more well-known, like I know all of Shakespeare's plays are pretty well-known, but the more like famous name ones, I've read all of those, but I wanted to read his complete works and reread the ones that I've already read so that I could do videos on them. I want to do like read one play a week and then review it at the end of the week, and then when I've read the complete works, I want to go through and to the best of my ability and in my own opinion rank the complete plays of Shakespeare. So I think that'll be really fun. Obviously it'll take a long time, but it'll be some good content hopefully and last me a long time, and I think the final ranking video should be a lot of fun. So those are my latest library books, kind of what I'm working on as far as plays and poetry, and I'm also still working on a bunch of novels. So that's just kind of an update. I will be reviewing some of these things soon. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.